Hello guys, hello again. Like, I don't know what is happening today. So many disconnections. Okay, so I'm gonna try and do this live video for the last time. If for whatever reason it still does not work and we get cut off, then I will just record a video offline and post it on my channel and then share the details here on Facebook. Because wow, how can was it Monday? Yes, got cut off at 12 minutes. Maybe I need to revisit this 2 o'clock thing because clearly there's anyway, where were we? Okay, so I'm gonna load this video. So let me start off by greeting everybody. Hello everybody, my name is Precious Lindu and Tiwachelang. Yeah, I'm sure you've gotten used to my long name by now, ne? I love it. And my job is to help you to discover your true self. It is to help you to know the true essence of who and what you are. What is the purpose for which God created you here on earth, and to help you to then live in alignment with this and find pleasure and freedom in this. So let's get to it. Remember, we are peeling the layers. You know, I always make an example that you'll see even on my website, even my logo is a pearl, because for me, self-discovery is, you know, your core essence is like a pearl, where you imagine a pearl inside an onion, inside a lettuce, inside a cabbage at the bottom of the sea. Work with me here. So discovering yourself would then entail, first of all, you knowing that there is this pearl, you know, at the bottom of the ocean. And then learning how to swim if you do not yet know how to swim, learning how to dive in, and then retrieving it and peeling off the layers from, have you seen how a cabbage is when you peel the layers after layer after layer after layer? Then you get to your lettuce, then you get to your onion, and you peel it layer by layer by layer. Some layers are thick, other layers are thin. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, this is too hard, I want to pause. Actually, I'm going to put this leaf back on, and then it wilts because it was time for it to be removed, you know, until you get to your core essence, your center. So that is how I generally envision self-discovery. Okay, so what are we talking about today? I hope you've seen the notification. I don't know how to share this broadcasted, but anyway, people will catch up. So today we are talking about unlocking self-limiting beliefs. Okay, so now self-limiting beliefs in simple terms. Okay, I see that we are burping today. So ladies and gents, if I do burp, just let it slide. It happens, yeah. And unfortunately, Model C School taught me to say, oh, excuse me. And as I'm finding myself, I'm learning that we do not apologize for the presence of our ancestors. So I will not be saying, excuse me. But yeah, I'm trying to learn to burp with class. It's not working. So yes, we'll just all have to live happily together with it. Anyway, back to the serious stuff. So self-limiting beliefs. A self-limiting belief is that belief or thought form that stands in the way of you fulfilling your mission here on earth, that stands in the way of you achieving your purpose, that stands in the way of you serving through your core essence and you equally being served through your core essence, right? So what I mean by this is, let's talk examples. I think it's easier to deal with anything when we have examples. All right. So let's look at an example where somebody says, oh my gosh, I am terrible when it comes to timekeeping. I'm late for everything. I'm always late at work. I'm late for everything. I'm pretty sure I'll be late for my funeral. Have you heard people say that, right? And popular belief would be, or one of the most commonly used methods of trying to unlocking the limiting belief that I can't keep time would be to, you would be taught on how to ask yourself, or you'd be asked questions of, is it true? What supporting evidence do you have for this, right? But the thing with that is, for me personally, I prefer to do it differently for me and my clients, because what I found is looking for evidence to try and prove the truth of the limiting belief. Sometimes you get tons and tons and tons of evidence, and now you need to work through the evidence instead of the limiting belief, right? So for example, if you are late for your wedding, you are always late at work, you are late for any event, if there was a late comer of the year award, it would have your name written on it. You've got years of history of you being late. It emphasizes and it rebuilds on you believing, because it's like, yes, definitely, I really am bad at keeping time. I'm really terrible with time, right? So I like to do it a little bit differently, where instead of looking outside, you look inside of you, right? And you ask yourself, look at, let's say, today, right? You close your eyes, because a lot of the times, this is why generally a lot of meditations either require you to close your eyes or to have a focal point, so you can zoom in on one thing at a time, right? Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, breathe out, and ask yourself, when was I on time today, right? Or when did I meet a time requirement today? And you'll find that you are supposed to wake up, as in to physically open your eyes when your alarm went off at 5 o'clock in the morning, but your eyes were open before 5 o'clock in the morning. So you were in time to wake up, right? Because you opened your eyes on time, even before your alarm went off. Yes, maybe you've snoozed and then you ended up going back to sleep, but you actually managed to be on time for waking up. In fact, you were early. That's just one example, right? And if you go deeper and you ask yourself, where does this come from? Okay, you might find that you think that you are always late for, let's talk work, right? You think that you are always late for your work. Whenever you go to the office, you are late for work, but you are not late. It's coming from a place of, you are going to work that is not in alignment with your soul, right? And when it's not in alignment with your soul, it's like your soul keeps trying to say, this job is not for you. This job is not for you, right? And you find that even if you wake up, let's say you need to be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And you decide, you know what? I'm going to do affirmations today. I'm going to declare that I arrived to work on time. And you make sure that you are ready at 5 o'clock. You are out of the house. When you drive through, you realize the robots are not working. And you thought it's an hour's drive. You need to be at work at 7. So it's an hour's drive. You'll at least be there at 6. Robots are not working. You drive through. There's a Cressida somewhere in front of you that breaks down. You end up getting to work at 9 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. And that then fills up the whole notion of, oh my gosh, I'm so terrible at keeping time. Meanwhile, when you understand that you keep being late for this particular work because it is maybe not in alignment with your soul, you start doing things differently. You start looking at why is it not in alignment, etc., etc. Okay, so I'll use another example which is somewhat of a kind of personal example. So have you heard the concept in Zulu where they say, hey ubukhali, you know, or in Tswana, hey ubukhali tota, ubukhali, you know? In English it doesn't have the same oomph, but it basically means you are very strict, you are very stern, you are like that's the easiest thing I can think of. Okay, so then you might end up doing things to try and to actually be in alignment with the whole belief that, hey, you know, I'm a no-nonsense kind of a person, right? Only to realize that the bukhali you, right, is if you go deeper and you find out where is it coming from, it's actually suppressed anger that lives within you from previous generations. Okay, and because now, let's say for example, your grandfathers were in the military, they were in war, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of, you know, hostility. It was always a skit, you know, it was that environment, it was that I'm either going to die or I must kill, or it was that kind of an environment. And that is what is currently living within your DNA. And it comes out through you as a ngibkhali, I'm a no-nonsense person. Meanwhile, it's actually you trying to live out that anger. But when you understand where this bukhali, being stern, being unnecessarily strict all the time, no nonsense, as we like to put it, kind of a person, you then get to understand that I carry a bloodline of people that were in war, people that were angry most of the time because that is what their job at the time required of them. Or maybe people who were enslaved and they died angry, they died hurt, and this is now coming out. Then you start working on healing that. And when you heal it, it becomes better, and you all of a sudden realize that, how? You know? And you start getting feedback like, hey, you are calm nowadays. And you look at yourself and you're like, hey, I'm calm Vele nowadays, right? Because you have started the journey of healing the layers of anger that are actually in your DNA, in your genes. As you heal yourself, you heal those that came before you, you heal those that come after you, right? So if, let's say, for example, you grew up, and when you grew up, your parents would always tell, as soon as they meet someone, they just put a disclaimer out there, FYI, please just note, hey, my child is a slow learner, please just bear with her, you know, just bear with her, she's very slow, right? And you grow up with that notion of, I'm a slow learner, I'm a slow child, I'm a slow learner, I'm a slow child, you know. My parents need to actually put a disclaimer out in front of people to say, oh, please just bear with my child, she's a slow learner, so I'm an embarrassment to my child. And you have those feelings, and it builds on to the feelings of not feeling good enough, right? And then you get married, as an example. And as a married woman, you then feel like you are not good enough, you know, or you feel like your husband cannot survive. My husband, you know, if I don't cook for my husband will not eat. If I don't cook for my husband will not eat, right? And you baby your husband, because in that particular instance, the limiting belief is things cannot happen if I don't do them. And that is coming from a place of, I'm not good enough. And that is coming from how you were raised, you know, the whole notion of, just bear with this one, they're a slow learner, you know, bear with them, be patient. just disclaimer, please don't judge us as parents because we have a slow child. Please just understand. Right? Now you feel the desire, the need, the deeply entrenched need to prove yourself worthy, to prove that, yes, I'm worthy, that I'm worthy to be here, to be part of this family. In this instance, it's your marital family, for example. Right? But if you are doing it from a place of love, of self, when you are content with yourself, if you are doing it from a place of if you are doing it from a place of that is you serving from your overflowing cup, it's a completely different matter to when you believe that your family cannot survive without you. Your husband will not eat if you don't make him food, right? Go back to before your husband married you. Well, I mean, let's say you met when he was 30 years old, for argument's sake, right? If you met your husband when he was 30 years old, how did he live all these years until he met you if he can't live without you? What did your husband eat for a whole 30 years? Mathematicians will do the calculations of how many days that is, because you eat most days. What did your husband eat before he met you if he now all of a sudden cannot survive without you? He can't eat if you don't cook, right? And when you realize where that self-limiting belief comes from, when you look within, then you realize that actually the issue here is not even the fact that you believe that your people cannot live without you, or they cannot eat without you if you don't cook. If Msadi wa Joe doesn't cook at the family ceremony, then nothing happens. If you realize that the issue is not even that, but the issue is rather the hurt that you felt as a child not feeling good enough. The issue is the you not feeling good enough. Then you've started to unlock the self-limiting belief, right? You've actually gone a layer deeper of the self-limiting belief. Okay, so the self-limiting beliefs, they stand in the way. It's beliefs that stand in your way of you achieving your purpose, of you fulfilling your mission, right? And sometimes you find this is especially famous with us women, where we say, oh my gosh, in my family, we struggle with weight, especially from my mother's side. We are all just big. We are just women who are big-bodied, and that's putting it nicely. And then you start having a distorted relationship with food, because then you start either eating food that is junk, because in any case, when not in your family, you guys are big, right? Or you start starving yourself because you are trying to get rid of this fat, because when not in your family, you are big, right? Not realizing that when you close your eyes and you actually go deep within and ask yourself, where is this coming from, right? You'll realize that this could be coming from perhaps in one of your bloodlines. One of your grandmother was petite at some point, and your grandfather then cheated on her with a woman with big bums and big curves. And from that point onwards, she thought him cheating on her was about her, and she thought she was not good enough. And she then went on a self mission to make sure that she gained weight so that she could be appealing to that ancestral grandfather. Now, that goes into the bloodline, because now she's eating not to nurture her body, but to gain weight and gain and gain and gain, so she can be appealing to the grandfather who cheated on her with a bigger woman, okay? And that then gets transferred down the line into your generation until it gets to you. Now, you look at your mothers and your aunts and you think, oh, in my family, we are big. and you continue eating however, right? Not realizing that it's actually not even the food that was the main cause of the fat that piles on, right? And you actually, the emotions, because sometimes we think when we either lose or gain weight, we only think of food that goes through our mouth. We do not think of the emotions that we eat. We do not think of the spiritual aspects that we eat, because everything that we consume, maybe eat is it makes you think of food like delicious, right? Let's use consume. Everything that we consume gets into our body. And when I'm talking of body, I'm not talking about just the body that you see, the one you're wearing a green t-shirt. No, I'm referring to your body in its totality. Your physical body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your energy field, everything that makes up who you are. That is the body that I'm talking about. And when emotions are not worked on, they need to find somewhere to sit, because if they are not released, they have to settle somewhere. One of the easiest ways they settle is either through sicknesses, your diseases, or they settle in as fat deposits. And when you only look at the self-limiting beliefs that says, in my maternal side of the family, we just gain weight, not understanding that actually the weight that you are piling on is not even the food, because sometimes you find you are big but you are not even eating that much, or you are one of the most, like, people know if there's a braai, they must order a packet of carrots and celery sticks because that's all that you eat, but you are still the biggest one in the group. Why? Because yes, your physical body, you may be consuming healthy food, however the emotional and spiritual and everything else is overloaded, and that then has to pile on somewhere, because in order for us to release, it has to come into the physical. A lot of the times, if it's not in the physical, as human beings, it becomes difficult for us to comprehend. If we don't see it, we don't feel it, it's not there. So for the body to then get rid, to kickstart the healing process of getting rid of these burdens of feeling not good enough, of feeling like you are worthy to be, you deserve to be cheated on, those feelings, they pile up on your body. And when you don't unlock the limiting belief, you do not get to that. So I love getting to the root cause of things, and it's one of the things that would get me into trouble, as a kid. And it's one of the things that led up to some of my self-limiting beliefs. For the longest time, I believed personally that I was stubborn, and I did everything with stubbornness. Everything was just I'm stubborn, right? And when I went within, when I went within and looked at, is this true? Am I really stubborn? Where is this coming from? So is it true? I was like, yes, it's true. I mean, this person says so, that person says so, that person says so, I've done this, I've done this, I've done that, so yes, I'm definitely stubborn, right? That did not work for me. So then I went back and I asked, okay, when did I start being stubborn? And that tracked me back to my childhood. So when I was a kid, like, because my soul's mission is for me to help people to get back in line with their godly purpose, the reason why God made them on earth. I want to get to the root of things, Oh, Gosya. I want to get to the root of things. I want to understand the reason, the core reason of things, which is why my mission is to get to the core purpose, to help you find your path to your core purpose. That it, even as a child, without even realizing it, that I was still living that mission. And because of that, I was that child that asked a lot of questions, you know. And in my generation of parents, they were raised in such a way that an adult is not questioned, right? So I would ask my mom, maybe she'd say, hey, Lindy, right? Lindy, don't cut your nails at night. And because I want to understand the core origin of things, the core reason of things, the root causes, I would then ask, why? You know? And because of her own upbringing and her own things, her response would be, no, because I said so, you know? And I'd keep asking, but why? Like, where's it coming from? What's the worst that could happen if I cut my nails at night? Like, honestly, you know? And then I'd be painted as unenkani wena, you are very stubborn, you know? And she would say, that's how we were raised. And that would still not be good enough, because I'd go and say, but did you not ask your parents when they told you this? So you can come and teach me, so I can teach my kids things that I actually understand. Because now I don't understand why I should not be cutting nails at night. I mean, there wasn't electricity back then. Maybe that was the reason. Right now we have electricity, so what's the reason, right? And it would seem as though I was argumentative, as if I was disrespectful, as if I was stubborn, right? And growing up, I was that child that if you beat me up, I would not cry. Like, I'd just look at you like, okay. Physical pain, I generally still have a high tolerance for physical pain, which is something, it's not normal. Like, I mean, I sat and I had a tattoo and I was falling asleep. Not normal at all, you know, because it's not a normal physical body response for one not to have such a high tolerance level for physical pain, right? So when I would get beaten up, I wouldn't cry, and I'd get beaten up even more for not crying, because I'm not crying, then I'd get an even bigger hiding. And that then brought me up with the notion of I'm stubborn. And as I grew up within my relationships, I would do things from a point of, I'm stubborn, you know, I don't get told what to do, you know. So I would not listen to reason. I would not allow to be led, you know. I would be unteachable because of the whole notion of, I'm stubborn, right? And then in one of my first corporate jobs, I was working with one of the clinical psychologists, and guess what? Then I discovered the word assertive. Ooh, guys. You know, and I misused that assertiveness, that word assertive. I basically removed stubborn, because stubborn sounded, it had this sour taste, you know. It didn't look cool. But assertive, you know, you could be in a boardroom and tell people to go to hell and make them look forward to going to hell, and that is you being assertive. No, it was not me being assertive. It was me feeling like I was not good enough as a person unless I stood my ground. I had to force my way in, right? Because I was a stubborn child. I mean, if you're a stubborn child, it means you're not a good enough child, because parents just, like, you're a headache. You are just a headache. You're a stubborn child, right? And that perpetuated into other things. So unlocking your limiting beliefs, that thing that you keep saying, and sometimes we think we make it sound positive, right? You find sometimes, let's use food again, you know, you'll hear someone saying, oh, you know, I just, making breakfast for myself is just such a job because I can never decide what to eat. Oh my gosh. And you find that you cannot decide what you want to eat because you want to make the decision when you get to the kitchen. And when you get to the kitchen, there's the fridge and the cupboards and everything, and you are flooded there, and you are not asking yourself in the morning, okay, so what should I be having? What should I be having for breakfast today? When you wake up while you are in the bathtub because there's no food in the bathtub, then your decision on what do you want to eat is not influenced, practicing not to be influenced by outside factors. And sometimes you'll realize when you ask yourself, what should I eat this morning? The answer will be, oh no, 2 glasses of water for you today for breakfast. But if you had not gone the route of looking within, you would actually go to the kitchen, fry your eggs, hey, make your English breakfast, oh nah, everything galore. And then you feel heavy throughout the day, and you don't understand why everything is just so heavy, and you are just so tired, and things are not getting in here, and you are not being inspired, because on that day you are actually required to have 2 glasses of water for breakfast, unlike on other days, right? So those are just some of the examples of what limiting beliefs are and how you can unlock those limiting beliefs. Take time, it takes practice. You can start with the small ones, with the ones that don't seem like they are that much of a big deal. Start with those, because if you want to start on them by yourself, right, start with the small ones. But if you want to work on your self-limiting beliefs in their totality, because you are now frustrated with the job that you are doing, you are frustrated in your marriage because you are that makoti who has to do everything for everyone while others sit and relax, and you are tired all the time because you are that person who's having sexual intercourse when they do not feel like having it, just because of, hey, I've got a low sex drive. Now you have sex with your husband even when you don't want to, because you believe you have a low sex drive. So on the day when you do kind of feel like it, you are forced to just do it, because your husband wants it, because you don't want to lose him, only to find that your low sex drive is not even a hormonal thing, but it's coming from, if you look deep within, it's coming from abandonment within your generation, right? So if, let's say, one of your grandmothers had to lose their husband because their husband either had to go to war, or they had to go and be in the military, or they had to go and work far away and be a migrant laborer, that is them then feeling abandoned, okay? And in order for them to deal with this abandonment from their husband, they had to switch off from their womb area. And now you are seeing, I've got a low sex drive, and you go to doctors and they give you pills. You go to Mamhlaba Zatu and they give you imbiza, and you find that when you do not take the pills, you revert back to your low sex drive, because the pills will work on the bloodstream, but they will not work on what is outside of the physical. They will not work on what is deeper than the physical. Those pills will work on you and not your previous and your next generation, right? But when you become aware that in my history, actually, the men tend to leave women and go and work far, and the women stay behind. And I see that in my relationships, it's also been like that, and you can see that trend. You can actually start realizing where the limitations are coming from. And a lot of the times, the limitations that we see at face value are more often than not even the case. As I made numerous examples that you will see it as, oh, I've got the fat gene, you know. I and my family, we've got the fat gene. Meanwhile, it's not that fat gene that you are seeing is actually a not good enough gene. That fat gene that you are seeing is sometimes it could be, let's say maybe one of your ancestors found themselves in a poverty-stricken environment where they would go for days without eating, and the day they see food, they need to make sure they eat that food. And yeah, it must be Christmas and Easter and New Year and birthday all in one. They make sure they just eat everything, right? And you have a self-limiting belief that says, you know, I'm a stressful eater, you know. Oh no, the word is, I'm an emotional eater, you know. Oh my gosh, I'm such an emotional eater, you know. If I'm stressed, I eat. I'll finish the entire slab of chocolate, you know. That's when I actually want junk food. When I'm emotional, oh my gosh, you know, when I'm depressed, that is when I want to eat all the junk food. Meanwhile, if you look deep within, it's actually, you are not an emotional eater of the physical food, but you are an emotional eater of the emotions that are not being dealt with. So as you get stressed, it triggers that gene in your body that says, hey, we need to eat. And when we need to eat a lot, we need to eat a lot of food that will make us fat. And then you go and you consume a lot of the food that you know is not in alignment with your body. And after that, it feels good, but it also feels terrible because I'm an emotional eater, you know? Or, oh, when I'm stressed, I can't eat. And it's actually your body forcing you to not consume food so you can start devouring on the emotions that you are not looking at. So that was unlocking limiting beliefs. It's, some are easy, some are not, some are obvious, some are not. So if you want help, you know, if you find that you are trying to work on, if you find that you keep proclaiming certain things over your life and you cannot get to the issue of you proclaiming these things and they are happening, because remember, you create with your mouth. So if you're going to proclaim that, hey, I can't keep time, you won't keep time, and things will happen so that you don't keep time. And sometimes it's got nothing to do with the time really, but time is just a way of your body in its totality, your soul, your spirit, triggering a response to say, hey, there's a trauma in this body of mine. It comes from this place. I need it out. I want it out so I can start functioning in my true core essence. Let me know. Let's work through it. You know, let's work through those self-limiting beliefs. Let's work through those limiting beliefs where we believe that, hi Shem, you know, no, hey, life is hard. You know, life is hard. Because another common one is one of those where, oh, I'm terrible at maths, you know. So today I seem to be going on because I got cut off and I still want to talk. So today's video might be slightly longer than the others. You know, where you hear somebody saying, oh, I am terrible at maths. Me and maths. I was one of those. I'm terrible at maths. Put me in the previous box because I'm out of that box now. But I used to be one of those, oh my gosh, I'm terrible at maths. Okay? And for me personally, where that came from was the fact that my core mission functions largely with emotions, right? Not to say it doesn't function with maths, but it functions largely with emotions. So as a result, on my report card from school, maths it was never really the highest mark. And my dad wanted me to be a doctor. Now, obviously, maths is one of those signs for parents in those days where it was like, my child excels in maths, it means they are going to be a doctor one way. And it was never one of the top ranking marks for me. Instead, all the other things would be top class, you know. And the feedback I would always get, even if the report card said, excellent work, Precious, keep it up. My dad would be like, ke batla excellent, ke nyaka excellent. Mara reporting when say excellent. Look at your math marks, ke nyaka excellent, right? And then I started believing I was terrible at maths, and I made it a reality. And I promise you, my dad tried getting me a tutor for maths. He got me Saturday classes. Hey, he did his part. He tried. Me, I was convinced. I'm terrible at maths. And looking back, I realized that when it came to geometry, I was actually very good at geometry. And now understanding sacred geometry, I understand the linking. But I continued thinking that I was bad at maths until I decided, hey, let me just test this thing on myself, you know. I enjoy baking and cooking, okay? So then I was like, okay, so when last did you use maths outside of conventional? Because then my finances were a mess because I believed I was terrible at maths. Anything that had numbers, I would just mess it up unintentionally. So things would just be mumbo jumbo, and then that would convince me even more that vele girl, when you are terrible at maths. Okay, so one of these days I decided, you know what, let me actually do this work on myself. And I did the work, you know. I journeyed within. I asked myself the questions, and one of the things that I had to come up with was, name one thing where you were good at maths. And I couldn't believe the answer that was coming up, because when you go deep within, sometimes the answers are not those answers that you would expect to come up when you are looking out at the traffic on the N1. And the answer that came was baking. Yeah, baking. I was great at maths because of baking. Okay, let's dissect this. Let's look into it. And this is what I realized. I love baking. So initially I thought that I'm terrible at maths. I love baking. So with baking, those of you who can bake, right? Or even if you can't bake, but if you use a recipe of anything, you'll realize they'll say 3 cups of what, 4 eggs. Hey, they'll say a 3/4 cup of cubed butter. No butter. Well, I haven't bought butter that comes cubed, so that I just take the cubes and put them in the 3/4 cup or however much size of a cup, right? I buy my butter, that brick, that boma 1 kg brick or 500 grams brick, and you'll find a recipe says you need 150 grams of butter. Okay, now if you've bought that 1 kg brick of butter, you need maths for you to get to 150 grams of butter, because now you need to understand how many grams make a kilogram. That's maths. Well, it's got science in it, but it's counting. It's mathematics. It's counting, right? Then you're like, okay, so I've got 1 kg. So 1 kg is 500 grams, 500 grams. Okay, if I cut it in half, then I've got my 500 grams. Okay, so how many blocks are going to make if I, how much do I need to divide by? How many slices of butter do I need to cut into for me to get 150 grams? And you realize, okay, so if I cut it here, if I cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 10, that's 100 grams, 200, etc. You get to your 1 kilogram. Sharp. Now half of the 100 gram is 50 grams. Ne? I hope I've been using the grams and the kilograms right, but anyway, half of the 100 grams is 50 grams. Now you're like, okay, for me to get 150 grams of butter, I must add the 100 plus half of the other 100. Cut it there. There's your butter done. You put in your other stuff. Then you get these ovens. I don't know who makes these ovens, but you get these ovens that they don't write 180 there. They like some number and then 200 and then another number. Now there's these little lines in between, and you must count those lines in between to get to the 180 degrees Celsius. That is maths. That is you applying your mathematical knowledge. And I excelled at that. And that changed my perspective completely on the notion of I'm not good at maths, Because when I'm at a shop and I'm doing my grocery, it's very easy for me to calculate, oh, this is how much it is. I'm going to give her this much. She must give me this much change. Because I'm one of those, scan ropa 5 cent, So then I got to understand where my I'm not good at maths limiting belief was coming from. Because that limiting belief, when you think you are not good at maths, it'll leave you letting go of your finances in your business to be other people's responsibility without you even wanting to know what happens, what happens. Because when you are terrible at maths, it will have you not enjoying things that you should be enjoying because they require money, because now your finances are messed up because you think you are terrible at maths. When it's not even a case of you are terrible at maths, but it's that thing of you were not good enough as a child. You felt as though you were not good enough as a child because you could not achieve what your parents wanted you to achieve. Okay? And that is what unlocking your self-limiting beliefs does. It releases the fear, it even releases the illnesses that lie in your body, because sometimes we get sick not because of physical things, but emotional and generational things that happen within us that we are not even aware of. And you wonder, oh my gosh, I'm a resident at the hospital. You hear someone saying that, only to find that maybe they grew up without a home and that caused illness in them, and the one place they can call a home is a hospital. Of course, there'll be a resident then at the hospital because they need to perpetuate this whole notion of I am a resident at the hospital, and they are not then healing the actual thing that is wrong. Okay, so to work to unlock your self-limiting beliefs, some you can unlock on your own, others you may need a healer, others you may need a doctor, others you may need a psychologist, others you may need a coach. But with self-limiting beliefs, a lot of them are way deeper than the surface that we are seeing, and it's ideal to get help with them. So think of, have you ever swam in a river where you swim so much and you are exhausted, and then you have your friends standing by the riverbank and they take out their hand and they just hold you and they pull you out? That is the role of the healer or the coach that will take you out of the help you to get yourself out of the self-limiting belief. Okay, that is how I can help you to get out of the self-limiting belief. To first of all, clarify the self-limiting belief, get to the root cause of it, get to the bottom of it, understand the root of it, because when you understand the root of it, then you are able to deal with it accordingly. Then you know that the issue is not the food, and your body image issues change when you understand that it's actually not even your own fault that you are big. It's a genetic thing from one of your ancestors who went through such and such a traumatic event. Now you start being more compassionate to the body that you have, because you understand that this body is actually in pain. It's not just big for nothing. It's in pain. It needs love. It needs healing. It needs nurturing. It needs me to take care of it, and not just take care of it by eating healthy food, physical food, but the emotional food that I eat. How do I deal with my emotions? How do I handle my emotions? Am I even dealing with my emotions, or am I suppressing them by a smile and a slice of pizza? Or am I suppressing them with a smile and a carrot? Because sometimes we think that when you eat healthy and you suppress, it's better than when you eat pizza and suppress. And those actually do the very same thing. Because in that instance, the emotion that is not being dealt with gets piled up in the body. It sits in the body and deposits itself as fat or as disease. Okay, I've spoken so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yes, I don't know, next time I'll just start, I think I'll move my lives to maybe 1, and we'll see if there are any interruptions. If not, we'll continue with 1 o'clock, but otherwise we'll try and move it to a different time. I'll save this on my YouTube channel, Precious Lindiwe Ntibakgalang. Be sure to subscribe. I remembered this time to subscribe, like, and share with other kids. Sharing is caring, and it helps with the algorithm so that more people can get to see this video that we've shared on unlocking your limiting beliefs. What are the unlimiting beliefs, and how to dig deep into them. The surface may look like this, but underneath this is, if you think of what they call the iceberg model, your self-limiting beliefs that you are proclaiming, it's the top of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch of the iceberg underneath the ocean that you are not even seeing. And for as long as that iceberg underneath is there, you will forever have them. But when you work on them, going down, peeling layer by layer, remember your lettuce, onion, cabbage, peeling layer by layer by layer, you heal. The more you heal, the closer you get to finding yourself. The more you heal, the easier it becomes for you to live in alignment with your purpose. The easier it becomes for you to receive. The easier it becomes for you to serve. And the easier it becomes for you to stay in your lane, in your truth, without judging others, without getting involved in things that don't involve you, without wanting to be everywhere all the time, without wanting to be a superwoman or superman, So, yes, one last example, okay? This one would be for the gents. Just now, let's balance it out. So this one is for the gents. So, gents, one of the examples of a self-limiting belief that sometimes you may have as a man is when you let's say, for example, you're like, phew. So remember, it all comes with what is the origin of where this thing is coming from. And sometimes it comes out as simple, but it's actually not as simple. So always look at the motivation as well with the things that you do and the things that you say. What is the motivating factor behind it, right? So you find sometimes where guy says, yo, if I don't wash my wife's car, that car will just be dirty all the time. All right. Remember, I made an example with the females and the cooking. So now it's the guys and the washing of the car, right? And if you dig deep and you find that the washing of the car is just a surface thing, the real issue is the fact that you want to prove your worth, that so people can see that you are taking care of your wife. And it's got nothing to do with you really wanting to clean the car. If you're cleaning the car because that's your way of showing love, that's the way of taking care of her, that is your way of just being a supportive partner, that's perfect. That is beautiful. But if you are cleaning your partner's car because you believe if you don't do it, she will never do it. Will she die if she doesn't wash the car? If she drives in a dirty car, will she die? No, she won't die. What is the reason for you insisting that you be the one that washes the car? If it comes from a place of, hey, my wife, if I don't wash it, it will never get done. That could be a self-limiting belief for you. And you look into where is that coming from, right? Before you met her, who was washing her car, if she did have a car before? When you are away from work, what happens? What's the worst that could happen if that car is not washed, right? Because sometimes as men, things get done to try and prove your worth. And that comes from childhood traumas where you were maybe not good enough as a soccer player and girls didn't like you because you couldn't play soccer. Or maybe you didn't have a certain body type, and in those days it was cool to have a certain body type and you were shunned upon by girls because of that. Or maybe it goes even deeper in your family that the men in your generation do not feel good enough for various reasons, and it comes out in different ways, right? So instead of you being an alcoholic, you become a car washaholic, right? So let's look at the things that we proclaim. Are they enhancing our lives or are they limiting our lives? And when I say lives, I mean the life in line with your purpose, because it could be enhancing your life and you are not living in resonance with your purpose and you still get frustrated. So the things that you keep proclaiming, oh, I am this, oh, I am not that, I am good, I'm not good at this, oh, I struggle with this, oh my gosh, I always need help with this. Where is that coming from? Hit me up, call me, let's go through it, let's unlock the self-limiting beliefs. The name is Precious Lindiwe Ntibagalang. Email is info@lindiwecoaching.com. Website is www.lindiwecoaching.com. Facebook, it's Precious Lindiwe Ntibagalang. YouTube is also Precious Lindiwe Ntibagalang. But if you want to get hold of me, the easiest would be an email, info@lindiwecoaching.com, or a WhatsApp message, 072-629-1732. Hey, the office number 011. Please check that out on the website. I have not yet I have not made efforts to know that number here, but it's there on my website, www.lindiwecoaching.com. Have a fantastic Friday. I spoke a lot today, guys. Woo! Like, I hope when you see it, you'll watch the entire video so you can get all the info within the video. I hope that this video that's shared has helped you. I hope it shed some light. I hope it helps you to unlock your limiting beliefs, and feel free to ask questions if you've got any questions on unlocking your self-limiting beliefs. And remember, if you require help to unlock your self-limiting beliefs, I'm here. You know, that is how I serve, you know, through healing the layers that cover your core essence, so you can discover your purpose and find pleasure in who and what you are, your true self. Let's get the pearls out. Ikukulo buena. Have fun. Happy Friday. Bye. Love and light.